Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. And if you're watching this live time, happy Memorial Day weekend. Hope you're doing well. This is our Simple Abundance year. We're following along with Sarah Ban Beathnach in her book Simple Abundance, the new 2019 edition, which I have with me here. We have a bunch of things to talk about today. I mentioned on a recent video that I've been combining some of the entries into one video because there's a lot of overlap in what we're talking about right now in the month of May. This is May 2020. And in the May section of the book, we're talking about home and all the things about home as far as like figuring out what works for you, what doesn't, if it's speaking from your authentic self, so much more. So check out all the recent videos if you want to get more into the home love and everything. So now we are into this section about letting go of things that no longer serve you. Remember, we have talked already, I shared about how I went around and did a survey in each room and determined if there was something that I wasn't really loving fully. We've already talked about that, but then we didn't really talk about the process of totally letting go. Have you guys been going around into the rooms like I talked about and also thinking about that entry about the mementos and seeing if maybe, even though those might be harder to let go of, if maybe it's time to move on from some of those? Let me know in the comments. So, May 22nd, the name of the entry is Clearing Out What Isn't Useful or Beautiful. And it's interesting, I already had shared with you guys how I went around and did the survey in each room, and she is telling us to do a similar survey like I had already shared. All right, I'm going to read a bunch of things. Begin this week with a pad and pen. Browse through the rooms of your home meditatively. Let the divine grace of simplicity, order, harmony, and beauty accompany you. Those are some of Sarah's principles. Really look at your surroundings, your furniture, and decorative accessories. Give thanks for your home exactly as it exists today. It's good advice. Now, begin the inquiry. This is not going to be something that you can do probably in one day, but here we go. Ask each possession, are you beautiful, useful? Is it time for you to move on? You will undoubtedly come to an object that is neither beautiful nor useful, but has sentimental qualities, like those mementos that we talked about. Begin a new category on your clearing list, but use restraint. Does it really tug at your heartstrings? Would you mourn it if it disappeared? Be truthful. No one is privy to this exercise except your authentic self, and she's trying to tell you something. Listen. If it tugs at someone else's heartstrings, send it to his or her room. Write all the information down. Always allow yourself time to think on paper before you act. So that's pretty similar to the survey that I explained in a recent video, how I went around and did something similar to that. I can't say I asked every single possession those questions, but like I shared with you guys, I did notice if there was something that I was just like, no, it's time to replace that. So I made a list, and again, it's not like you go out on a shopping spree that particular day, but you make a list in a conscious effort. And that picture that I told you about in the hallway, now it's honestly bugging me even more. Just about every day I go, I need to switch that. Like maybe I was unconscious to it before, but now I've definitely been thinking about it a lot. I'm going to read more of what she says. The next step in the process is to make a commitment in writing on your calendar to do one room a month. I mentioned that before because she had it in her Joyful Simplicities for the month. On the appointed day, plan to spend a few hours as you did when you weeded through your wardrobe. Remember, she asks. I think that was what, in February? No, I think maybe March. I've blocked out some of some of those ones about the fashion that just kept going on and on. Not my favorite section of the book. Anyway, I like this home section though. I hope you are too. Be sure you have plenty of boxes and garbage bags available. Now start to sort. If it's not beautiful, useful, or sentimental, it goes. One pile is for items to give away or sell at a local charity resale shop, or on one of the many online sales tools. The other pile is for perfectly good objects of previous infatuations that no longer make your heart beat faster. This pile can be recycled as future gifts or to be resold as well. The third pile is for things you can't stand or are old and broken, and these are just to be trashed. There is an ancient metaphysical law that says if we desire more abundance in our lives, we must generate a vacuum to allow ourselves to receive the good we seek. How can better come into our lives if there's no room for it? The way we provide the vacuum is by giving away what we no longer need or desire, but what can serve others. So some of these things can be gifts. I like how she ends this entry too, where she says, deciding to simplify our lives and bring order to our homes by sending on the objects we no longer love to new, happier incarnations with people who will genuinely appreciate them is the way to open ourselves up to receiving an abundance that will perfectly suit us. So maybe it's somebody in your life that you can share something with, or maybe it's just sending it off to a charitable organization and hoping that it reaches the right person that will love it and use it. What do you think? Are you ready to do it? Okay, the 23rd is, she talks about a Ruskin spring ritual of restoration. And I don't know that I'll read a ton from this one, but it's really about cleaning out those junk drawers. We did talk about that as well with the joyful simplicities of the month, to try to tackle one of those each week. And this is a good entry to read. It's kind of a long one, but it's something to think about, where if you can clean out the clutter on that level, which you may not even realize is really causing you any sort of mental or any other sort of effect to you, then you will actually notice a difference when when all that clutter is cleared out in those junk drawers. She goes into detail about some of the things, and I'm guilty of this. I have a lot of keys in one of my drawers that I am so afraid to throw away because I don't know what they go to at this point, but then I'm afraid that I might have forgotten that I had something like a suitcase or something that I need to open. So I have a lot of keys. But she does say, the reason I mentioned that is because she says that you want to confer with other people in the house about whether they know what something is. Like, it could be at your house a lot of computer cords too. That's another thing I have besides the keys. That it's again like, oh, what does this adapter go to? Oh, maybe I'm forgetting this camera and how the camera needs to attach to the computer or something. So I have a lot of those as well, but you want to confer if you can with somebody. I don't know that Annabelle's going to help me much, but you can, yeah, she's going to come up here, I think. You can try to figure out if anybody knows what it is or isn't. And then Sarah does say, if you haven't used it and you don't even know what it is, that you really should get rid of it. I'm going to read what she says at the end of that entry. Every cleared junk drawer, each closet, each successful attempt at organizing only reinforces your feelings of taking back control of your life. I had never really considered how being disorganized beneath the surface had weighed upon my mind, she says. But once I cleared away the clutter, I felt a wonderful sense of renewal, joy, and inner peace. Here was the essence of simple abundance, and it had cost me only time to plan, really. The courage to show up for the work and the physical energy to do it. Don't be surprised if one fine spring day you suddenly feel the urge to wash your curtains and clean the windows. The light is beautiful and you can see clearly now. That's a nod to one of the senses entries that we did about seeing clearly. I will say I've told you guys about how I'm working on trying to create more space for some stuff that's coming out of storage. And one thing to mention is once you start this, at least this happened for me, I'm thinking this would happen for anybody. Once you start to really get organized, then you notice all the other disorganization. Like, for instance, I really did a huge clean out of my coat and closet. It's the entry closet in my house, and I made a lot of room, and I reorganized photo albums and all the stuff that's in that closet. Then I went into the kitchen and I opened up another cabinet to just make some rice or whatever, and I was like, this is so messy, like I started to notice it. So then I'm cleaning out that one. So it starts this chain reaction of you really starting to be more conscious of when things are disorganized. And I do have some junk drawers. I've got so much to go through right now that I really do need to make a plan. So Sarah says, put it down on paper and commit to the fact that you're going to do these various things. Like, when are you going to schedule these junk drawers? When are you going to do such and such a room? Okay. May 24th, that is today, she takes us into the art of KonMari. I had to look up a little bit more about this. I've heard of this before. Have you guys heard of this? It's Marie Kondo. She actually has a Netflix series, and I think it's much more well-known now. I feel like maybe it came to the American culture in a big way back in 2014, so it's been a while. So I bet you guys have heard about this, because there was a whole trend where people were doing some of the things, like you're supposed to roll up your socks and everything, and there's a lot, and I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but Marie Kondo is a tidying expert. She's a best-selling author, and she's also the star of the Netflix show Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. And she's founder of the KonMari Media Incorporated. So, what does she say? And this is me looking it up on the internet earlier, just so I could share with you guys. The KonMari method encourages tidying by category, not location, beginning with clothes, then moving on to books, papers, miscellaneous items, and finally sentimental items. Keep only those things that speak to the heart and discard items that no longer spark joy. Thank them for their service, then let them go. So that's an interesting thought too, about when you do get rid of these things, to be thanking them. I'm thinking right now, actually, this is not about letting go of particular items, but I've mentioned to you guys that I've moved a bunch of times, and I have this sort of ritual, I guess I would call it, whenever I'm leaving a place for the last time, I go into each room and I think about memories that I made there that were really happy and memorable, and I thank the room, and I sort of like let go, and then I close the door. So that's my way of sort of cutting the cord with each of the places that I've lived and leaving it with a nice positive thought. Have you guys ever done something like that? The only time that I moved where I wasn't able to do that in a way that I feel like I was able to fully cut the cord, because it wasn't empty yet. When I moved to New York from the Midwest, my ex-husband was still living in the house. So all of our stuff was still there, and I moved ahead of time because I had a job to get to in New York. And so I did go around and do that, but it wasn't the same as the house being totally cleared out. Like in every other moving situation that I've had where I've done that, the house was empty. The only reason I mention that is because occasionally I have dreams about that particular house in the Midwest where I feel like I left something there. I don't know if that's like a psychological or emotional thing. That was very much, I do feel like that house that we lived in very much felt like home. And I was there for a while, probably. Well, the longest I've ever lived somewhere is 7 years. And I lived in that Midwest house for 4. So it wasn't like my longest home, but somehow I didn't get full closure with that closing out because it was different. It was kind of like a half goodbye. It wasn't really totally over yet. And then I was never there when the house was totally empty because he was taking care of closing it all up and moving everything. So in the May 24th entry, she talks about how her daughter comes over and is all inspired by this KonMari stuff that I guess she did in her own house. So she helps Sarah go through everything and notices things, like she says to Sarah, you know, why do you have 2 of this outfit? And, you know, you only really need 1. And Sarah was struggling a bit because probably like me, she's pretty sentimental. And so her daughter was saying, you don't have to get rid of everything you really love. We're sparking joy through this, you know? So you don't want to get rid of things that you feel are going to really tug at your heartstrings. Like if you ask it, are you ready to move on? And it brings up a feeling inside of you, or you get a sense that it's not time, then you don't have to let that go. This is just about making sure that the things around you are the things that are bringing you joy and that you feel they're beautiful and useful, right? Let's see if there's anything else to say. You're supposed to handle everything too and sort of like communicate with it in this philosophy. I think I've touched upon that as much as I can. Let me know if you've done any of this in your house. I do know one of my friends, I know sometimes she tunes into the videos. I know that she did the KonMari stuff in her house a few years ago. I don't know that I would ever be able to just, you're supposed to, like I said, like even roll up socks, and she has this whole way of putting your clothes into your drawers and stuff. I know I would not be like that. But maybe it would do me good. I don't know. Something to look into, though. You can check it out. I'll put a link to that website and its incorporation. What was it called again? It was KonMari Media Incorporated. I'll put that into the box. I know it's not the 25th, that's tomorrow, but I will just mention one more entry because it's not one that I would do a whole video on, but I just want to mention it. And I did give it a nod to it a few weeks ago when we were first talking about the house. So the entry is called A Sense of Charm. And I want you to be thinking about that. Because I did mention when I mentioned this in a video that the sense of charm, it's almost something that, first of all, it's pretty personal. But is it something that can be bottled, or is it just this feeling that you get when you go into a place? I think there's probably decorating tips that you can add in more charm and coziness. I've read various things about having throw blankets and different kinds of pillows, and there's all kinds of things like that. But I don't know. I think you have to think about really what that sense of charm means and how you may be experiencing it in your house or maybe what it is about when you go into someone else's house and you're like, oh, this is so charming. What is it about that? And do you like that feeling? And do you want to bring a little bit of that into your own place? So give some thought to that. Money can purchase beautiful furnishings and decorative accessories, but it cannot ensure that charm abides with us. She says, I believe this is because charm seems to be a quality of the soul that cannot be bought or sold. But charm can be channeled from the divine interior spirit. It is accessed through our authenticity, expressed in our personal flair and our appreciations for the sheer loveliness that's all around us. That's what I think. Once you get your space the way that you've gotten rid of all the clutter and the stuff that's no longer useful and you don't find beautiful, that's probably where the charm emerges, because there's a sense of lightness, right? When you walk into a place and it's not so cluttered. When we were talking about feng shui in the kitchen and cleaning off the counters and everything, I did that just last week. And there are things that I've always had on the counter that I found a place for, even if it's like, there's usually a pot that I keep out on the stovetop. And I just have started putting it in the oven. I just have to make sure that I don't turn the oven on forgetting it's in there, right? And then I, like, sometimes I didn't have a place for my cereal boxes, so I just started putting them in the microwave. So they're just there and they're out of sight. But it sure is something that I notice now about how clear the countertops are. So have you guys been doing any of this? I hope I've inspired you to think about it. I know it can maybe seem overwhelming, but I hope you'll think about some of this, because as I mentioned in a couple videos now, like, your surroundings really can have quite an effect on you and your life. Hope you're having a great weekend. I am honestly still waking up, even though it's going on midday now. Looking out the window at the birds and just finished having some tea. Haven't even gotten officially dressed, but I'm having a great weekend. I spent some time outside yesterday. It's been beautiful, and I've got some new plants in the garden, and I planted a bunch of herbs this year. Remember I told you guys about remembering my mom's herb garden? So I looked up what the butterflies and hummingbirds would like the most for herbs. So I planted a bunch of those. And I'm doing a pretty modest statement in my garden. I always go overboard, but this year I'm doing more of an understated thing, mostly with pots. But just like we're talking about inside the home and not having so much clutter and stuff, I actually am liking the order of it and the way that it's I don't know, like little gathering areas, and I still have to mulch, but got my fairy houses out. I'll do a little patio fairy garden tour at some point this summer. And I will see you this week as we wrap up the end of May, and hope you can get outside and enjoy the sunshine if you're having some where you are, and having some sort of a long weekend, hopefully, where you can have some special time to yourself and think about all these things: joy, harmony, beauty, order, simplicity, and gratitude. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.